Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly profound roadmap for spiritual cultivation, pulled straight from an incredible source text. If you love diving deep into the mechanics of the mind, the nature of reality, and how we actually interact with the unseen world, well, you're in the exact right place. Think of this explainer as your essential survival guide for a spiritual hero's journey, literally going from absolute confusion to total clarity. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever just looked around at your life and felt like you're stuck in a dream? Or, honestly worse, a really stressful movie? The source material makes this absolutely fascinating observation. Day in and day out, we basically trap ourselves in this movie-like illusion. We hold on to grievances, we argue over little things, we hurt each other. Basically, we're acting exactly like characters in a dramatic play who completely forgot they're just playing parts on a stage. And that quote right there really gets to the heart of the matter. Breaking free from this daily mirage, that is the entire point of this cultivation guide. But look, like any great expedition into the total unknown, you can't just wander out your front door. You've got to pack the right gear. And in this case, your gear isn't, something you shove in a backpack. It's something you actively cultivate in your mind, which actually brings us to our very first crucial step. Section 1. The power of intention, the heart as the root. So, the absolute foundation of this whole path is realizing that your mind and your intention are the literal root of everything you do. Imagine you're sweeping the floor of a sacred temple or a Buddha hall. Now, physically, your arms are just moving a broom back and forth. You could sweep that same floor 5 times a day. But if your mind is wandering off, if you're just annoyed about all the dust, or you're mentally calculating what you're going to have for dinner later, you aren't actually cleaning a sacred space. You're just doing physical labor. The spiritual result only kicks in when your mind is entirely 100% focused on the intention of true service and humility. And this brilliantly illustrates how the universe responds to our intention, not just the mere physical action. The source points out something amazing. You could donate a single solitary dollar, just $1. But if you give it with a deeply humble, sincere heart, you generate massive spiritual merit. But on the flip side, if you donate that exact same dollar, but you do it with a stiff neck, an arrogant posture, and this big sense of superiority, you get absolutely zero true spiritual reward. In fact, that kind of arrogance might even invite trouble for you down the line. Section 2. Cultivating karmic connections. Now, as you walk this path, you're definitely going to need guides. But recognizing them? It's not about their face. It's about an unseen force called karmic affinity. There's this beautifully striking anecdote in the source material about this. Once, the Buddha himself went to an old lady's house to beg for alms. He knocked 3 times. And the old lady? She looked right at the Buddha, slammed the door in his face, and chased him away. Crazy, right? But later, the Buddha sent his disciple, Ananda. When the old lady saw Ananda, she was absolutely overjoyed and immediately gave him the best food she had in the house. Why? It wasn't because Ananda was somehow greater than the Buddha. It was because, from a past life, she had this deep, pre-existing karmic connection with Ananda. The takeaway here is to cultivate and trust those deep affinities. Because when the right guide finally appears, regardless of what form they take, that invisible bond is going to make you trust them instantly. Section 3. Stripping away illusions. All right, now we begin the heavy lifting. The source uses this incredibly vivid, fantastic metaphor of colored glasses. Just imagine you're wearing a pair of glasses stacked with 7 different colored lenses. Red, blue, yellow, green, the whole shebang. Looking at the world through all of those, everything is just a chaotic, colorful mess. Well, that is our normal state of existence. Spiritual cultivation, specifically shedding the layers of mental perception known in the text as the skandhas, is exactly like taking off those lenses one by one. You take off 2 lenses, hey, the world looks a bit clearer. Take off 5 and you can almost see the true shapes of things. Finally, when you pop out that very last lens, you suddenly see the true, original, vibrant color of reality. But here's the catch. As your vision starts clearing up, you're going to notice that the world around you is still acting totally crazy. People are still heavily trapped in their own dramas. And the source gives a really great piece of advice here. When you begin to see through the illusion, you don't necessarily have to shout it from the rooftops. You don't have to run around correcting everyone. Instead, you can just calmly sit back and watch the monkey perform its tricks on stage. You see the illusion for exactly what it is, but you don't let yourself get tangled up in the performance. You just calmly observe. Section 4. Ignoring roadside distractions. Now listen closely to this part, because as your vision clears, the journey actually becomes exponentially more dangerous. As those colored lenses come off and your spiritual power starts to grow, distractions are going to aggressively try to pull you off the path. The source warns that you are going to encounter some incredible things. You might suddenly manifest special abilities, or see these breathtakingly beautiful visions, or even feel overwhelming worldly desires. And even more dangerously, demons might manifest themselves looking exactly like Buddhas, preaching things that sound almost perfectly true. Your strict instruction here: treat every single one of these visions as completely empty air. They are literal illusions designed specifically to derail you. The source actually summarizes this danger with a really simple, strict rule. Do not pick the roadside wildflowers. And it really doesn't matter how beautiful those flowers are. It doesn't matter how sweet the fruit looks or how shiny the treasure is. Do not be greedy for these small magical advantages. If you stop to pick the flowers, you are going to be consumed by the illusion. You just have to keep your head down and keep walking.
Section 5. The Trap of Arrogance. So, the crucial point is avoiding this ultimate trap, which is known in the text as the 50 skandamaras. Essentially, these are 50 different demonic illusions or ego traps. I know it sounds super complex, but it's actually remarkably simple and honestly a bit tragic. Falling into this Mara realm simply means you became half-baked. You meditated, you got a little bit of clarity, maybe a tiny bit of spiritual power, and then your ego totally took over. You thought, wow, I'm amazing. I'm fully enlightened. I've made it. Arrogance sets in, you refuse to push through those final barriers, and you just become permanently stuck in this distorted ego trip, completely losing the true path. When you think about the timeline of this journey, you see that it starts out pure, but right smack in the middle, exactly when you start seeing real results, is exactly when that trap of arrogance springs. You absolutely have to treat your progress with immense humility. You must walk straight through the illusion, ignoring the wildflowers, ignoring your own ego, and totally refusing to stop at that halfway mark. You only stop when you have entirely broken through all 5 skandhas.
Section 6. Completing the journey. Now, what's really interesting about this next concept is what actually happens when you conquer your arrogance and reach the very end of the road. The source provides an incredibly beautiful metaphor here. Earlier, we talked about how you were warned not to touch the roadside wildflowers or treasures, right? Because they would destroy you. But once you have completely broken through the illusions, once your ego is entirely gone and you are safely enlightened, well, the rules completely change. The source says you can now drive a massive 50-car train back down that exact same path. You can safely collect all those magical tools, abilities, and former distractions, pack them right into your train, and bring them all back. Why? Because now you aren't grabbing them for your own ego. You're using them as powerful, absolutely necessary tools to save and help all other sentient beings. It's just an awe-inspiring framework, isn't it? From realizing we're all trapped in a movie, to fixing our deepest intentions, dodging those crazy illusions, and finally returning as a true helper of the world. And it all starts with that very first step of the mind. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. When you sweep your floor today, or donate $1, or even just interact with a stranger, what is your true intention on the path? Are you just going through the mechanical physical motions, or are you secretly building a train of treasures? Think about it. See you next time on The Explainer.